Welcome to Building Better Relationships with Chuck and Barb Lewis, equipping listeners and viewers with the biblical tools to conquer the difficulties faced in this life. Chuck has practiced crisis intervention since the 1980s and has been in ministry together with his wife Barb for over 20 years. They've taken the countless lessons and the knowledge they've acquired and have put them into this life skills class to share with you. We hope this blesses you.
Well, hello again. We're glad to be with you today. My name is Pastor Chuck Lewis.
And I'm Barbara.
This is Barbara, and we're just excited that we're here joining you today on these teachings that we feel like we have learned over, gosh, I've been doing this 47 years, would you believe? And what I like to say is the miracle part of that is I haven't aged at all. Denial is a wonderful thing, right? But these tools and skills are something that we all need in life to just make life work better. We never believe that life ever gets perfect, because as long as we're here on this earth, we're not going to be perfect. But the better, the more tools and skills we learn, the better life works and the better our marriage works. And boy, we not only teach the tools and skills, but we try to practice them too. And believe me, trust me, it's easier to teach them than to practice them. I know how to teach them, but practicing is a whole different ball-game.
Sometimes it's just a choice, an act of our will.
It's an act of our will. I heard Gary Smalley, which is one of the best-selling authors, say one time, he said he told his wife, I know you think I lay awake at night trying to think of ways of straining out our relationship, but this stuff just comes natural to me. I just know how to do that. So you know, I can really resonate with that. But today we're going to be talking about honor and the importance of honoring each other. And God really wants us to honor ourselves, and he wants us to honor each other. But we have to know what it is. I've talked to men in groups of like 12 or more that I've asked the question, what do you do to honor your wife or girlfriend? And they didn't have an answer. They didn't have a clue what honor even was. So honor is a way of putting high value on something or someone. And I like to think about, you know, if you get a new car, you might drive 2 blocks out of the way if you know there's a major mud puddle in the way, because you don't want to get any mud on your new car. Well, that's what honor is. It's treating it with high value. And so if we treat each other with high value, and that's a choice, not a feeling.
Right.
Do you feel honor when you give honor?
Do I feel honor?
Uh-huh.
Oh, you know, a lot of times I do, but I think it's just like love. Love is something you do.
Mhm.
It isn't necessarily something you feel. And I think honor's the same way.
Right.
You do it as an act of your will. It's like being kind, you know?
Yes.
We need to do that.
Being kind. So you choose to be kind. You choose to honor the other person.
Mhm.
I've had people say, well, when they start treating me with honor and respect, then I can honor them. But it doesn't always start with them. It can start with us.
Right.
And that's not the easiest thing to do. You know, it's easy to honor somebody that's honoring you and respecting you. But what if you have to start that ball rolling? You know, I grew up in a household where I didn't hear a lot of honor being exchanged. I heard a lot of dishonor being exchanged, a lot of put downs, lots of sarcasm, lots of cutting down each other and really making fun of each other, which was horrible for me. I didn't like that at all. In fact, I used to fantasize as a little boy that they were going to show up at the door someday and say, from the hospital, and say, you know, we made a horrible mistake. We put you with the wrong family. And my family was teaching life skills all over the world. That's what I used to fantasize about. And but anyway, that never happened. That wasn't true. But you know, it would have been a wonderful thing to have environment of a family that didn't think that putting people down was a funny thing to do. I would have loved it if people would have honored and respected each other. But anyway, we can learn how to do it. And I had to learn how to do it. I learned from people like Gary Smalley. That's where I learned honor from the beginning, is from Gary Smalley.
Yeah.
And so how do you think that we can honor each other in a relationship? Do you think that we have to start with ourselves?
That's a very good point. I think if you don't know how to respect, love, and honor yourself, it's hard to give it to somebody else. And I know some things as basic as, taking care of your health, being clean, getting enough rest, eating, drinking water. That just sounds so basic. But
You mean I need to go to the doctor and get a checkup? I mean, what a thought, right?
yes.
A lot of men don't go to doctors.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy that had a medical condition that was serious, and he asked me to pray for him. And so I checked in with him about 6 months later, and I said, so how are you doing with this medical condition? What's the doctor say? And he said, the doctor hadn't said anything because I haven't gone back. It's like, well, okay, that's one way to handle it. But it's not the best way to handle it, because you could have a serious thing going on that could be corrected if you just treat it.
Right. That's a way of honoring and taking care of yourself, is take care of your health. And like I said, I mean, we think it's too basic to even mention drinking water, eating, exercising, but that is hard for some people that are used to always putting someone else before them, or taking care of others at the expense of themselves. And like when you're in an airplane, they tell you, if the oxygen masks drop down and you have children, put your own on first. Well, you might think, well, that's selfish. But no, you can't help somebody else if you yourself have passed out.
Right.
So it is important to take care of yourself, your own basic needs. But I think also the things that you say to yourself, Ephesians 4:29 is, let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only that which is good for the edification of others, that it may benefit those that hear. And I remember the Lord saying to me one time, and that verse goes to you, because I was putting myself down. I was used to, I think, being criticized when I was a kid. And I just kept saying those things to myself. And the Lord had to bring that to my attention. And I quit doing it. And now I really hear it if other people do that. So the words we say to ourselves need to be kind, respectful, and honoring too. And then I think it comes more naturally for us to give that to the other person.
So there's got to be a balance. Some people turn into narcissists, and a narcissist is a fancy clinical word for a very selfish, self-focused person. Everything's about them. All of life is about them. And so we're talking about a balance of feeling good about yourself, feeling healthy, affirming yourself, but also affirming others. And, a true narcissist, the best definition I ever heard of narcissism is the fact that you focus all of your energy around yourself. If it has nothing to do with you, you're not interested. Everything is about you. Well, that's an imbalance. It's an imbalance to have a poor self-esteem, but it's also an imbalance to make everything about you. So I believe that the Bible talks about giving what you need. I mean, if you need somebody to love you, you start loving them. If you need money, give money. If you need health, start encouraging people that are sick and praying for them. Give whatever you need, and God will honor that and bless that.
I love that, because that is sowing seed.
Sowing
And if you
seed.
sow seeds of honor into someone else, you're going to reap honor.
That's
So
right.
that is great. I love that.
Yeah, you can't sow wheat and reap corn. You're going to reap whatever you sow. And so, honey, why don't you read Philippians 4:8?
Okay. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely and admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And I want to share that in my journal, I have a chapter in the back that is Philippians 4:8 about Chuck. And I wrote down everything I could possibly think of that was good, honorable, excellent, and praiseworthy about him.
We should frame that.
And it's really good to go read whenever you're not happy with each other.
That's
It
good.
reminds you of all the reasons why you fell in love with that person in the first place. And I had plenty to write. And periodically I'll go back and add something.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. And really, when you think in terms of contributing to each other, you're going to be thinking about what you love about them, what you appreciate about them. And we either contribute or contaminate every time we speak.
Yeah.
So if I'm contaminating you all the time and speaking contamination to you, well, then you're not going to feel very close to me.
Right.
You're not even going to want to be around me.
Yeah, that would close my spirit.
Yeah. And so that would not be honoring you. That would be dishonoring you, pointing out all the things you do wrong.
Right.
Every time you make a mistake, to highlight that mistake. I mean, how does that feel when criticism is happening more than contributing?
That's discouraging. And I've heard one time that we need to hear 10 positive things for every one negative. So we need a lot of praise. I feel like Satan stands before us all day, telling us from morning till night everything that's wrong with us.
Right.
And we really need to hear what's right. I feel like I really benefited from you learning about honor, because you were learning about that when we were dating. And I loved all the endearing, kind things that you said to me, and that you didn't, if I walked across the room and tripped, you didn't say, way to go, klutz. You never said anything like that to me. I didn't have to worry about you putting me down in public and embarrassing me, because instead, what you usually do in public is tell people how much you love me and what you like about me.
Right.
And you do it publicly. And I think that's important for a woman to do for a man too, because a man really needs to be admired and noticed and praised and appreciated. And
absolutely,
I just think that's important for us to remember.
Well, we're living in a dysfunctional world, and a lot of comedians has made a lot of money off of sarcasm, putting people down, really ripping them up, and just laughing. And the thing is about sarcasm, and my family used to use sarcasm a lot. And then if you'd call them on it and say, well, that really hurt me when you said that, then they would make fun of that. And they would say, well, that lets you know how sensitive you are, and you're too sensitive and everything bothers you and you can't even have fun. Well, we can have tons of fun. We can enjoy ourselves in a safe way. And a safe way of enjoying yourself is never using each other in a negative way, putting them down at their expense, but to build them up. And we laugh a lot, but we don't laugh at each other's expense. There's a big difference. A lot of things that's funny. I believe Jesus laughs. I really do, but I don't believe he laughs at other people's expense. I think he laughs at what's really truly funny. Right. And you can do it. You can do laughter in an honoring way. Let's show them the example of the what we call, it's not a real diamond, it's a crystal, but if it was a real diamond, this thing would be about $5 million, right? Because it's so big. So maybe some of you are thinking right now, hey, I'd like to have your address. But believe me, it's not a real diamond. But if it was real, we would treat that with a lot of high value because it is very, very valuable, right? If it's worth that. So we would probably put it in a safety deposit box or something like that. So that we show you that to use that as an example. If we can treat something with high value that has, we treat that with honor because it has a high value, how much more valuable are we? Well, in the Word of God, Psalms 139, the whole chapter of Psalms 139 talks about how valuable we are to God. And what I believe we can do if you've experienced a lot of dishonor in your life, instead of being mad about it and not forgiving that person, you can really start focusing your time in looking at how God feels about you. And I tell people all the time, Barb, about reading that whole chapter and inserting their name throughout the whole chapter and making that personal.
Yeah.
Because God's not only saying that to the world, but he's saying it to you individually. And if we read that and make that personal, boy, that really becomes powerful. It can change your life.
Yeah.
Really,
That's good.
your self-esteem can really
Mhm.
really soar. So we're telling you, if you've lived in a way where you've been speaking a lot of dishonor to each other, been speaking dishonor to yourself, calling yourself names when you mess up, when you do something wrong, you put yourself down. I've heard people say, "Ah, such an idiot. I can't believe I did that." Well, you're
Yeah.
not an idiot, but if you call yourself that, after a while, your brain might start thinking you are. So then you start doing that kind of behavior. But start building yourself up, encourage yourself, forgive yourself when you mess up. I remember drilling a screw right through an air conditioner line one time, and I felt terrible because all this freon kept pouring out of the line, and all I could see was dollar signs. And boy, when you do a mistake like that, it's easy to rip yourself a new one. But I had to forgive myself just by a choice. And I remember saying to you about what I had just done, and you said,
You're not in trouble.
"You're not in trouble." And oh my goodness, when she said that, it just relaxed me. She could have started ripping me a new one and start saying, "What were you thinking? Didn't you know where that line was and all this stuff? And you know how much this is going to cost us and blah, blah, blah." That would have just added to my contamination bank,
True.
which I was contributing to my contamination bank on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to start making honoring contributions to my self-esteem bank. And then when I needed to draw from that, there was things in that account to draw from.
One thing I would like you to talk about before we close is not saying what we don't want to see happen
Yes.
when we're talking to each other or having an issue or something.
People get into an argument as a married couple a lot of times, and they'll just start bringing up the word divorce. And that's the worst thing you can do to contaminate your relationship.
Yeah.
Is to keep saying that to each other over and over. I should just kick you to the curb. But my friends are telling me I should have kicked you to the curb years ago or whatever. See, you're contaminating. And if you're contaminating the relationship, it can't grow. Never speak what you don't want to see happen. That's kind of a life commandment that I live by.
Yeah.
And if I think about those words, if I just think about them for a minute, I'm not going to let them come out of my mouth.
Right. I mean, even not saying things like, my dad died of a heart attack. I'll probably die of a heart attack when I'm same age that he was, or speaking, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to get cancer, or I'm afraid of this, or
right.
I'm afraid you're going to leave me, or don't say those things. Speak God's word over yourself and over each other, but don't Don't say things like you said, don't say what you don't want to see happen.
I've had people say, well, Pastor, I feel it, so why shouldn't I say it? You don't have to say it just because you feel it. So we encourage you to start practicing this. Make a point and a decision to say, okay, all right, the dishonor is gone. I'm going to stop dishonoring today.
Yeah.
And from this day on, I'm going to honor other people. I'm going to honor myself. And see what God does in your life.
Yeah.
It will
Amen.
change you forever. You'll love it. You'll start enjoying life like you've never enjoyed it before.
Yeah.
You'll start enjoying each other like you've never had
Yeah.
before. And it's just wonderful. So God bless you today. If you want to send in a question on our email, on our website, just under prayer requests, you can write down the question. And if you don't want your name mentioned, we will honor that. If you don't care, specify that you don't care if we mention your name. We can call you your first name if you want and not your last name. That might be easier to do anyway. Just start calling people their first name, because there's a lot of different names out there and people won't know who you are exactly. But if you don't even want that mentioned, let us know. And we'll try to cover that question on the air. Well, it's been great being with you today. Tune in, subscribe, and we will see you next time.
If you are blessed by this ministry, please subscribe, like, and share. You can also make donations at chucklewisministries.com. Join us to keep uncovering the tools to build better relationships together. Let's do this again next week.